So, so all this research, but it's been very good. So good. So it's all a bit fresh. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to indulge myself. I'm going to talk about myself for more than a few minutes, and I also want to talk about the fact. I want to talk about my Irish relatives, the nation of speakers, of great talkers. Yeah. Then finally, I'll get back to the Pali Canon, and I want to say something about what the Buddha says about useless speech or frivolous speech. And then what he has to say about useful speech. Good. And I've picked Pali. I've picked text from the Pali Canon for this. Yeah. And then I've just got a few little tips at the end. It's not really a conclusion, but a few things that might be useful. And yeah, maybe we can. I don't know how long the talk will be. It might not be that long. And then there's a chance for questions. So, all right. My name is Lalitaratna, okay, and this is part of the talk. Ratna means jewel. Sangha actually gave me the name and told me in my private ordination that it meant playful. I thought, this is great, I like this. It means energy, it means too much energy. He said, it's like a fountain, there's too much energy. He said, in India, they don't have the fine arts, they have the Lalita arts, you know, the playful arts. So you need so much energy for life, and the excess goes into art. That's what he said. So that was great, I was really pleased. Then he said, and what sort of Lalita? I thought, well, that's enough. He said, Lalitaratna. I thought, God, that's a mouthful. It's not a name to take to a party, I know that, you know. But there we go. So, Lalitaratna. So, at the end of this retreat, I wanted to write a little note to Bhante to thank him. It was at Padmaloka, it was 1980, January 1980, I'd just been ordained. I hope I'm not speaking too quickly. I wanted to write and thank him for ordaining me. I didn't know how to spell Lalita, okay? So I went up to the Order Library, which was at Padmaloka. This is out East England, you know, Norwich area. And I found this big Pali dictionary, and I looked up the word Lalita. Now, I warn you, if you're an order member and you look up your name in the Pali dictionary, it's the wrong dictionary. Basically, most of our names are Sanskrit. I didn't know that. I was ignorant. So I looked up the word Lalita, and there it was in the book. Talks too much. Lalita in Pali means talks too much, yeah? And in England we have this expression, if the hat fits, wear it, you know? And I thought, oh God, I was a bit annoyed. I thought, you know, is this Sangha Rakshana's sense of humour? You know, it's a mean little joke he's playing. But then I found out I was looking in the wrong dictionary, yes? So, all right. So, let's see. Oh God, my headphones are playing weird stuff. Never mind. So, yeah. Hey, I'm going to have to do this without headphones. Will you excuse me a minute? Yeah. Good. Great. I'm picking up next door's television, yeah? So, great. Useless speech coming in my ear, yeah? So, all right. My relatives are Irish, yeah? My mother's Irish, all my uncles and aunts basically Irish, you know? There's some in London, but, you know, they came from the Irish side as well. And my mother used to say, all we had in Ireland was talk. Everybody was poor. You know, all we had was conversation. So when you went to buy some butter or something, there'd be this huge conversation. You know, my mother said, you'd be a little girl of what, 8, 9 years old, and the saleswoman, she'd ask about your mother and your father and your uncles and everything. And she said, all we had was talk. We had no money, we had no clothes almost, you know. So it was talk. And in those days, of course, there was no television, you know, all this videos and that didn't exist, and there was very few radios. In fact, when there was a football match, my grandfather, he had a radio, so he would sit it in the window facing out into the street, and they'd set up benches and the locals would come and they'd sit there in rows in front of the house for the football match. There was no traffic, so nobody was going to get hurt. So that gives you an idea of Ireland in my grandparents' and my mother's time, yeah? And she remembers this well. But one of the sources of entertainment was just talk. So, and I've seen this, I was there once. What would happen? It would happen around the fire. So you've got a nice lit fire, the adults all sit in chairs around the fire, and the children, they're on stools or cushions, and they're in between the adults, lying there, whatever. And then tea is served, maybe with a tot of whiskey in it, I don't know. But this is classic Irish entertainment, a whole evening of talk, and they're good at it, yeah? They're really good at it. And I was there, and somebody said, do Jimmy Butler killing the pig? And all these voices, yeah, Jimmy Butler killing the pig. So this was a great uncle of mine who was incompetent. And there was a famous story of him trying to kill the pig. Well, the mess he made of killing this poor animal, you know, it was an atrocious slaughter. And the whole village is hearing this poor thing squealing for ages. And all my family, you know, howling with laughter at this impersonation of Jimmy Butler putting a cross on the pig's head before he started and all that. And so this is what I remember. This was how, so the Irish talked, yeah? And it was the entertainment, but it was also a source of history, a source of culture. It wasn't all bad, you know. You could argue it's useless speech, but it held a people together. It gave them its history, you know. And the Irish create myths. You go over to Ireland today, they'll make myths about little events which happen just around the corner from you. They do it all the time. So there we are. All right. That's the end of my relatives bit. I came to Germany, all right? Coming to Germany has been one of the greatest disciplines in my life. I came without the German language. I came without much talent for languages. I'm a very slow learner with languages, yeah. And you come to Germany and you're a guest and people are very nice to you. It's great, it's lovely, they're very friendly, pleased to have you. After 6 months, they're wondering why you're still here, yeah? Then, as time passes, the pressure comes, why don't you speak German? You know, why aren't you learning the language? You know, and the pressure comes from all directions, all right? And they say to you, we are going to activate your German, Lalitaratna. What? What? Well, many of these people, they as school children, they've done, it could be 6 or 7 years of English at school. Some of them have done 10 or 11 years of English at school, yeah? They go on a holiday to America or India, and in a few weeks, their English has been activated. It's lovely, it's wonderful. So this was now turned around, and they were going to activate my German, all right? What German? I could say Gott im Himmel, yeah? Donner und Blitzen, and that was about it, really. I knew geradeaus because I'd had to give directions coming here, you know, links, rechts, and geradeaus, and that was it. All right? The Buddhist centre, silence was imposed upon me. I'd sit there during discussion groups. Tarapalata's laughing because he's going through this now, sorry. And you know nothing. Yeah, you've got a whole discussion group. Sometimes, as the years pass, you get little clues about what's going on, and you start thinking of an answer. But by the time some words have come, they've all moved on 2 topics down the line. Yeah, so there's this huge practice. Me, the lover of talking. Yeah, with a name like Lalita, I can't speak. Yeah, I'm silenced for years, and even today. It's still difficult. The subject's moved on. By the time you're ready to say something, it's moved on. So I have imposed silence upon me. So I have not so many opportunities for useless speech these days. All right? So, what have we been doing? In the last 2 weeks, we've had talks on speech. Tara Palata spoke on truthful speech, Arta Ketu on kindly speech. Great stuff, very good talks. Tara Palata also prefixes the talks by writing very good passages on the WhatsApp blog. They're excellent, so thank you for that, all right? And why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this in the context of the 10 precepts, or the 10 guiding principles, yeah? Or 10 training principles. These were laid out by the Buddha. They're in the Pali texts. They're also in the Mahayana texts. And why are we studying ethics? I said this before, but I'm going to repeat it. In the last months of the Buddha's life, he summarized his teaching down to the threefold path. Yeah? And you will hear me endlessly going on for the rest of my days about the threefold path. I will bore you stupid, I love it, yeah? It is short and it contains everything. In fact, I just come away from my talk for a minute. I remember just a few years ago, Bhante had given a long talk in the Buddhist Center. He was tired and I went back to his room with him. This is in Germany, yeah? And you have to couch it well. And I said, Bhante, all these order members, they're going to Tibetan lamas, they're studying all these wonderful things. I said, for me, I think the threefold path is enough. And Sangharakshita, he went very quiet, and then his whole body went backwards, and he went, it's enough! And it was like an udana from the Buddha. It's enough. It's all there. Yeah? So very good. There we go. That's from the Guru. Great. So, the threefold path, there's 3 elements. The spiritual path has 3 elements. How we behave, how we meditate, and how we reflect on reality. Yeah? In Sanskrit we say Sila, Samadhi, Prajna, which translates as ethics, meditation, and wisdom. That's it. Learn this, you've got the lot. Great. So, I used to be swamped by Buddhism. For at least a dozen years, there was just so many teachings, and I couldn't organise it in my head. And then, on a long solitary, I was reading about the threefold path, and I realised that you can take everything to do with the path, and imagine the threefold path as 3 big buckets in front of you. It could be 3 files in a filing cabinet. You can drop every bit of the path into one of these 3 bins and have nothing left over. Okay, I'm not talking about the names of lamas, I'm not talking about geography, I'm not talking about dates, I'm just talking about the path, yeah? And it's a fantastic way of categorizing Buddhism. You hear something, you go, oh, that's ethics. Obviously that's meditation. Well, that bit must go into the wisdom. It's great. So that's what we're doing here. We're studying the precepts because it's part of the threefold path. Great. And I said the Buddhism is enormous. I had a little look online last night. The Pali Canon, just the Pali Canon, there are 43 volumes in the Pali Canon. And I've actually got a photo of an entire bookcase which just contains the Pali Canon. That'll give you an idea. We're not even talking about Sanskrit or anything like that, or all the other schools. Good. So, what have we had? We've had, as we go back, just recapping, the first was not harming living beings, not taking what's not given to us, abstaining from sexual misconduct. Then I've just mentioned the speech precepts. Good. We will be looking today at use of speech. Next week, speech that doesn't divide people against each other. Slanderous speech, abstaining from that. And then we'll be looking at the 3 mental precepts. And that will be our 10 precepts. Good. So now, let's plunge into what the Buddha had to say about useless speech. All right? So this is what I found. It's from the Pali Canon. Okay? I'm just going to read, yeah? Some Brahmins and contemplatives, living off food given in faith, they've been given food by very decent lay people who believe in these contemplatives. They say, these are holy men, holy women, I will give them food. Yeah? So they give these contemplatives food and support and even clothing. Yeah? But these contemplatives are addicted to talking about lowly topics, such as these, talking about kings, robbers, ministers of state, armies, battles, food and drink. So they're supposed to be practicing monks. They're all chatting about rubbish. Yeah? Yeah? This is the Buddha's words. Clothing, furniture, garlands and scents, relatives, vehicles. Vehicles are like that. Yeah? They talk about villages, towns, cities, the countryside, women and heroes. So obviously the monks are all chatting with nice woman. Yeah. Heroes, great. The gossip of the street and the gossip of the well. So obviously when you go to the water well, you pick up the gossip while you're there. Yeah. Tales of the dead. Oh, the Buddhists must love that at night. Yeah. Discussions of the past and the future, the creation of the world and the sea, and talk of whether things exist or not. He abstains from talking about, now, yeah. So here, let's just go into the text a little bit, just pick out some of these ideas. Talking about kings. Well, hang on. This is Harry and Meghan, isn't it? Yeah? The royal family. This is Hello magazine. Yeah? About 2,500 years ago. Right? I just popped into Google last night and I typed in magazines on the royals. There are literally hundreds of them. It must be one of the most popular subjects in the world. Yeah? And I mean, what is our response to this? I've only got one sentence. If people are reading about the lives of the royal family, you know, I want to say, get a life. Yeah? You know, reading this nonsense, it's not actually harmful in itself, other than the fact that you're not living your life. Yeah, you're living somebody else's life, you know. This is called vicarious living. It's not your life, yeah? Back to the Buddha's word, food and drink. This is, modern TV programs, all the cooking programs. It's endless, yeah? Vehicles. I couldn't believe it said vehicles in the Pali Canon. Well, obviously they don't have Top Gear or something like that, yeah? But they're probably talking about bullock carts, you know, and chariots and things like that. And I remember Jyotipala, you know, he'd give a speech in India. Jyotipala, he's a Yorkshire man, yeah? But he was in India for years. And he used to like to walk home after a late night meeting. But sometimes the villagers would bring a bullock cart for him, and it was the worst thing on the planet. It was so much slower than walking. And it bumped over every runnel, you know. He hated it. So, anyway, vehicles, yes. Armies, battles, women. Anyway, and I'm just amazed that the Buddha was saying this 2,500 years ago. It's so similar to our interests today, yeah? And I just wondered if we believe in rebirth, could it have been us 2,500 years ago talking all this nonsense, yeah? So, all right. So, the Buddha also found monks arguing between themselves, yeah? Saying to their brothers or sisters, you understand this doctrine and discipline, huh? I'm the one who understands this doctrine and discipline. How could you understand this doctrine and discipline? How could you understand it? You're practicing wrongly. I'm practicing rightly. I'm being consistent. You're not. Yeah? What took you so long to think out, what you took so long to think out has been refuted. Yeah? Your doctrine has been overthrown. You're defeated. Go and try and salvage your doctrine. Extricate yourself if you can. Yeah? And the Buddha says, abstain from debates such as these. Yeah? And I remember when I was quite young, I was in the Buddhist Society in London, probably early 20s. And, very expensive place. And there were two men arguing over the Dharma. And I didn't know enough Dharma to know what they were arguing about. But they just looked like two cockerels having a fight in the middle of the room. Yeah? Not much has changed. It was pure ego bashing each other. Yeah? But they probably knew tons of Buddhism, these two fellas. All right? So in another text, I found the Buddha saying, monks do not wage wordy warfare, saying, you do not understand this Dharma, I understand it. How could you understand it? And he goes on, you are talking rubbish, you are wrong. Get out of that if you can. Yeah? And the Buddha says, why you should not do this, monk. Yeah? Such talk is not related to the goal. It is not fundamental to the holy life. Does not conduce to disenchantment, dispassion, cessation, tranquility, higher knowledge, enlightenment, or to nirvana. What a list. And it's interesting, in reading this last night, I recognised the list, yeah? It's the last half of the 12 positive nidanas, which Tara Palja and I are studying with Max and Benta, yeah? We are doing that, aren't we? Yeah. I can't remember. Yeah, so just some of these words, disenchantment, yeah? That there comes a point where you start seeing through life. That we do so many activities that are a bit stupid, yeah? And later on you realise they're really daft, yeah? Dispassion arises. You can't get excited about Hello magazine anymore, yeah? There is cessation. The passions stop in you, yeah? Tranquility arises. Now this is a tranquility that cannot be described. Maybe you'll see tears of a monk or a nun, but the tranquility is just astonishing, yeah? And then it says higher knowledge arises. This is in the list. And with higher knowledge, three things happen. You see your past lives, you understand karma, and you know you are a Buddha. I love that. It's not enough to be a Buddha, you have to know you are a Buddha. And this is like the last thing that happens on the spiritual path. You actually know it. And then enlightenment. So the Buddha continues, when you have discussions, monk, you should discuss suffering, the arising of suffering, its cessation, and the path that leads to its cessation. Why is that? Because such talk is related to the goal. It conduces to disenchantment, to nirvana. This is the task you must accomplish. These are the words of the Buddha, yeah? And yeah, I hope it doesn't sound too negative. He's saying you should discuss suffering because, it's not just love that hurts, as in as, who is it? Nazareth sang many years ago. It's life that hurts. It hurts, yeah? And we set out to bring an end to suffering permanently. This is the Four Noble Truths. Suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, path to lead to the end of suffering. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, what did the Buddha have to say regarding speech that we should be doing? So one day, the Buddha was, I found this text. Oh, actually, no, it's still a complaint by the Buddha. It's still a complaint, sorry about that. He's got more to say. The Buddha was staying at a place called Katuma in the Mirobalan Grove, wherever that is, yeah? And on that occasion, 500 bhikkhus arrived with Sariputta and Moggallana. Okay, 500 bhikkhus arrived. Now just to tell you about Sariputta and Moggallana, they're mates, they were boyhood friends. They found the Dharma, they were enlightened very quickly. And Sariputta is really rational. He's the genius of the Pali Canon, and Moggallana is magical. He's got all the magical powers. They're best mates. They love each other. They love each other for their differences. And Sariputta was famous for taking monks up to the point of stream entry, irreversibly on the path to enlightenment. And then Moggallana would step in and take them to enlightenment. They were a team. I love the idea, yeah? So you're in very good hands with these two, yeah? Anyway, they've arrived with 500 monks. And these monks are meeting other monks, and they're delighted to see them. You can imagine it. And it says, the visiting bhikkhus were exchanging greetings with the resident bhikkhus, were preparing beds and putting away bowls and outer robes. They were very clamorous and noisy. Then the Blessed One addressed the Venerable Ananda. Ananda, who are these clamorous, noisy people? One would think they were fishermen peddling fish. When the Venerable Ananda told him, he said, then Ananda, tell those bhikkhus in my name. The teacher calls, tell those bhikkhus in my name. The teacher calls the Venerable Ones. So they all came, yeah? They came to the Blessed One, and after paying homage to him, they sat down at one side. When they had done so, the Buddha said, bhikkhus, why are you so clamorous and noisy? One would think you were fishermen peddling fish. So they try and explain, but the Buddha, and they said, we were greeting each other, preparing our beds. And the Buddha, he's a bit tough. He says, I dismiss you. You cannot live with me. And the poor sods, they go, yes, Lord, yeah. And they all rose from their seats and they left, yeah, with Sariputta and Moggallana. Poor devils, yeah. It says they put their robes over their shoulders and they departed. The story has a good ending. There's a bunch of Shakyans. It seems these Shakyans are in a business meeting, yeah? And they see all these monks coming along. They say, what's all this? They said, they've just been chucked out by the Buddha. So they say, wait here. And they go off to have a talk with the Buddha. It's very nice. And they explain to the Buddha, if a cow is taken away from its mother too early, that cow is not right. It's not happy, And they go through all these similes, Say, if you take these young, some are very young, if you take them away from the Buddha now, they'll never be right. So the Buddha thinks, Then Brahma Sahampati, this great Brahma, he turns up and he gives the same argument. The Buddha says, all right, they can stay. So that's the story. But I just love this, that even the poor old monks are clamorous and noisy, yeah? So I do remember in Bante's autobiography, he was one day, before he was ordained, he visited the mountain Arunachala in India. And he said near the foot of the mountain were all these grass huts. And in each hut was a young man in profound dhyana. You couldn't disturb them. They were so deep in dhyana in each one. Yeah? They were Hindus. They weren't Buddhists, yeah? But in a way, this is the lifestyle being offered, being suggested. This is what the Buddha's interested in this monastic lifestyle. Yeah? And it's without chatter and noise, and it's to go profoundly deep. All right. What did the Buddha advise us to do? Okay. Well, I'm going to go to a text about Meghiya. We've heard him. We've had talks on Meghiya here in the Buddhist Issues Tour, yeah? So Meghiya, who was the companion of the Buddha, well, travelling companion. We don't know that they were great friends, but I do notice that when monks or nuns travel in India, they go in twos. They seem to always go in twos. And this is probably just a safety thing. There's no mobile phones. You get snake bite, your friend can get help. You twist your ankle, your friend can get help. If there's bandits, you're safer if there's two. There's likely to be a witness. So I think this is the reason. I don't think there's anything sort of dependent, you know. But so Meghiya, he's with the Buddha, they're out there, and Meghiya sees a lovely mango grove, but he goes, I want to meditate there. So he goes to the Buddha, he says, listen, I want to leave you, I've seen a mango grove, I want to get enlightened there, yeah? And the Buddha says, don't go yet, please don't go. And Meghiya says, no, it's all right for you, you've got enlightened, I haven't done it yet, you know. And the Buddha asks him a third time to stay. Meghiya, you know, he says, I've got to fight the spiritual battle, you know. And the Buddha says, well, what can you say against such language? My goodness me, go. You know, for heaven's sake, the enlightened one has asked you to stay 3 times. You'd stay, wouldn't you? Meghiya doesn't. He's off. He's off to the mango grove, where, can you imagine, he has a rubbish time of it. He's sitting there with all his negativity, he's got the hindrances, they're all piling up, his ill will, his distractedness. It's a nightmare. And it's lovely. He comes back to the Buddha. And what I like about the Buddha doesn't go, told you so. There's none of that. You know, the Buddha just says, let's see if I can find it. He says, when mind deliverance is immature, you need 5 things, right? And the third of these is going to be useful speech. But I like to look at all 5, yeah, because it's very good. He says, let's just have a look. Yeah, I've lost it in my talk. The first thing is mature company. Yeah, you need that. Now, I remember, here it is, a bhikkhu has good friends, good associates, good companions. Yeah, when mind deliverance, your mind has not yet been delivered from immaturity. This is the first thing that you need. Now, I remember when I came along, I was 23 years old. Some of these order members were in their 40s. Chanda, he'd been a taxi driver in World War II, yeah? And I'd always wanted older brothers, and I'd never had them, and suddenly I had them, yeah? And I adored their humour. I mean, I'm sure their humour was not politically correct, but it was funny. It was funny. At that time we were getting this disgusting butter from Germany. It was heated butter and sold, and it flooded the English market. I remember Jyotipala holding up and going, war reparations, like Germany is paying for the crime of war, you know. And there were just jokes that belonged to a different world, you know. But I loved it. They could give me advice. You know, I was still smoking a little bit of dope when I came along, and one order member, I won't say his name, but he said, well, when I was at Cambridge University, he said, I remember being stoned for 3 months once. Yeah, so that means day and night he's stoned for 3 months. Yeah, and he was such a genius. He said, yeah, in that time I earned my money through playing poker. I wrote other people's essays, you know, and I was stoned, yeah? And then he said, don't do it. But he said it so nicely, yeah? I stopped, yeah? So this is like contact with the mature. It's just great. It's really good, yeah? And there can be enormous love between older and younger people, yeah? The difference is important. The young, they inspire the older with their enthusiasm and their youth. Lovely, stupid ideas we have when we're young, yeah? And the older give reassuring guidance, yeah? It's a great relationship. Both parties benefit, yeah? So number 2, furthermore, Megir, a bhikkhu is virtuous. He lives restrained. You know, he follows the rules of the monk. That's called the patimokkha. We won't go into that, yeah? But he develops his discipline of behaviour, yeah? And then, furthermore, and here we go. Furthermore, bhikkhu, Megir, a bhikkhu obtains at will with no trouble or difficulty talk that is effacing. So now we're going to talk about useful speech. A help in opening up the mind. This is speech that helps open the mind. It's talk which conduces to a complete turning away from the banal. Yeah? Talk which hopes, and we're getting into that list again. The second half of the 12 positive nidanas. Talk that produces dispassion, cessation, peace, direct knowledge and enlightenment. Yeah? So, he goes into more detail. He says, there is talk about the fewness of wishes. So when you're in the right company, people will say, you know, I mean, today people might say, do you really need an iPhone? I don't know. You know, your old one seems to work quite well. It could be, that would be fewness of wishes, you know. Talk about contentment. Do you remember that point a few weeks ago? Contentment is the greatest wealth. I can't believe that sentence. I only found it in the last few months. Contentment is the greatest wealth. That you can have very little, but if you're content, you've got everything. If you're used to making billions and you get there you are, a billionaire, what are you good at? Making billions. You can't stop. You know, you will always be hungry. That's not wealth. Yeah? So, contentment is the greatest wealth, yeah? Talk about being non-gregarious. You don't have to party all the time, yeah? Maybe it'd be quite nice to do it, yeah? By the way, on the radio the other night, who is it? Iceland has got rid of COVID. They've done it. There's no COVID in Iceland, yeah? 300,000 people there. So they had recordings of all these Icelandic people partying. And the noise, the Buddha couldn't bear it. They were all singing, all these young girls were doing karaoke in the clubs. They were singing about 3 tones below the proper note. It was a cacophony, yeah? But so happy, all hugging and everything. But anyway, all right. Not really what the monk or nun does, yes? They're seeking out more solitude. Yeah? Talk about putting forth energy. So cultivating energy, cultivating virtue, cultivating concentration, and talk about wisdom, talk about deliverance. So when you're in this environment, yeah? And I do believe we have some of this really going on in the order today. You know, people are discovering meditation. They are discovering Ayakema. They're reading, is it Brassington, one of her disciples? These books are really going around. And it's like the order can begin to share these experiences of how to get into higher dhyanas. Yeah? And as I've said before, I mean, that meditation we just had today was lovely for me. Thanks to everybody doing it. It was much better because it was a collective practice for me. Yeah? And that's what we're so these monks are in an environment of moving towards enlightenment. Yeah? So that's the third thing, the talk, useful speech. Yeah? And I just mentioned the others quickly. The fourth piece of advice is basically, I've turned this into my own language now. He teaches the 4 right efforts. It's not what the Pali Canon says, but it is what they mean. And the 4 efforts are developing positive emotion, getting rid of negative emotion, protecting the positive emotion, and preventing negative stuff arising. Yeah, these are the 4 right efforts. Yeah. It makes a lovely gardening simile, you know, getting rid of the weeds, you know, planting what you like, fertilising, you know, going to the neighbour and saying, would you cut down your dandelions, please, you know. But, you know, so the 4 efforts. So that's that one. And energy is cultivated. With the 4 efforts, you cultivate energy. And then finally, the 5th one, and I just mentioned it, the bhikkhu, he contemplates the arising and cessation of things. That this is the ultimate wisdom, that you notice that things come into being and they go out. Yeah? And that is the nature of everything. It's happening mentally, thoughts arise and fall. I think it must be astonishing that some of our Sangha have small babies, yeah? It must be amazing watching the arising of a human being, just studying this child and going, how the hell is this happening? It bloody looks back at me. God help us, you know? How? You know, I think birth must be as profound as death, yeah? Fortunately, it's also lovely, we don't freak out. We only freak out when you die. But death is just the same thing in reverse. It's strong stuff, you know? So there we go. All right. So, so that was the 5, but the 3rd one was on right speech, yeah? And, okay, does this apply to us? You know, we, all us, you know, most of us Berliners now, ha 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 ha. Well, this is for monks and nuns. It's very extreme. But I think when we're on our meditation cushions, for a little while, we're a monk or a nun. Yeah? It's not different. It's not different at all. Yeah, we like a quiet place. Yeah? Great. If we go on retreats, well, that really is like being a monk or a nun. Yeah? Okay? It's for longer periods. I think many things we can learn from it, you know, just developing our shrine room etiquette. A few years ago, somebody asked Bhante, why aren't more people in dhyana? He said, perhaps the shrine room etiquette is not good enough. That people should come in with awareness, courtesy, and that will help their practice. I mean, you're getting into meditation before you've got into meditation, you know? So shrine room etiquette, yeah? And showing respect to the place we are in. And I love the WhatsApp blog this week. People were in the centre yesterday and were moved by the experience, yeah? Bringing back the atmosphere of life to our shrine room, yeah? So, it's good for us to be quiet. I told you in a previous talk, Sangharakshita urged me to take 1 hour of silence per day. He said, that's on top of your meditation. For 1 hour, do nothing. It's just, he said, I do it, you know. It's helpful, yeah. It's you not in relation to other beings, yeah. I didn't think I was that good at practicing it until I realised how much time I've spent in the bath, yeah. And I get my best thoughts in the bath. Some of my breakthroughs with thinking come in the bath. It's a great time. And you are on your own, usually. Great. So there we go. I think we need to create space and more silences in our life. Yeah? Just a thought here. I can't help feeling that it's the quiet times that to me are important. Like a friend of mine, he contacted me last year. He said, I'm sharing my Netflix with you, you know? So now I've got Netflix. So I've got this weird blob of an experience when I look back called Netflix, yeah? I can hardly remember any of the details. It's just the Netflix experience. You know, you've got mixtures of Schwarzenegger and this, that, and the other. Occasionally there's a good film, yeah? But basically it's just stepping out of life. And I do wonder I know I'm chucking life away. Sometimes you just need to go crazy and watch some crap, you know? But I do wonder if it's the times I sat quietly were my life. And the busy, busy, busy times, I wasn't really there. I do wonder this, yeah? It's just a little question I have going, yeah? And I even thought, you can experiment. If you ever get a solitary on going and you get bored, wow, you got bored. This is fantastic. You are now bored. What you do when you're bored is you get a chair and you sit down and you watch the wall. And the boredom starts going crazy. It starts going mad. And you want to do something. Nope. And you're going mad. And you say, you're thinking. Stop thinking. Just be bored. You know. I could be meditating. No, boredom is here. Yeah. Stay with the boredom. Yeah. And I'm on good grounds here. Sangharakshita, in one of his aphorisms, he said, when you're bored, be very bored. You know, and I've actually done this. You won't believe this. When I was young, I did this for 5 hours, even 6 hours, and I wouldn't let myself think. And when I came off that solitary, people said, "You look amazing," you know, and it's just, but you know, it's time not doing anything at all, and I wouldn't even let myself think. And sometimes, well, very often on solitary, what can happen is suddenly the tears come. And the emotions come, and you realise that the boredom has been hiding an emotion you don't want to look at. It's always that, really. You know, something wants to come up, you don't want it to come up. You look for any distraction you can find. The experience is boredom. Sit with it and have floods of tears later on. Okay? You're a bigger person afterwards. But this thing about missing life, there's a book, I've read it quite a few times, I love it. Kurt Vonnegut, Slaughterhouse-Five. It's about the bombing of Dresden. It's got science fiction mixed in, it's everything there. But there's one little line in it, he can deliver a concept in a few words. And his mother is dying in bed, just of old age. And she looks at him and she just says, "What happened?" He doesn't say anything more than that. That she's been a young girl, she's been interested in boys, and then suddenly getting married, and then and now she's on her deathbed. 40 years just shot past without her noticing, yeah? And what happened? That chills me now, you know? So we don't want to be too busy. You know, put in the spaces. Great. And also, we can offer these spaces to others. When people are talking, we should not interrupt. We should let people finish their sentences, you know. And I'm going to give you such a good tip here. This is a fantastic tip. The number of times I've been in study groups and I've wanted to say something, but the room's full of all these other people. They've all got things to say, and I'm going, I want to make my point. I want to, you know, and I can't get it in. Well, in this phase, I'm not actually paying attention to anything else that anybody's saying. I'm actually missing the study group, you know. I want to get my point over and I might not get it over. So here's my tip. Take a pencil and paper with you into study. And when the point comes, write it down and then relax. Now start enjoying the study group, yeah? Now I promise you a space will come. It always comes. And you go, "Oh, excuse me, I just wanted to say," and you read out your point. They go, "Oh, that's very good," yeah? The space always comes, and you've been relaxed, you've been listening to others, you're not upset, you know. It's great. But the other thing is this, sometimes while you're waiting, somebody else makes your point instead of you. Well, how healthy is your ego, you know? Accept it. Fantastic, they made my point for me. I'm not so petty and small that I needed to have made it and show how clever I am, you know? Yeah? Just let it go, let it be, and you'll have a much better time. And sometimes you'll get to a point in the group, you'll look at your words and you think, well, I have expressed this to me. I don't need to say anything, yeah? And the group moves on. So that was just, yeah. I mean, Banti says reduce input. He asks the order, just cut it down, yeah? And that's it, really. I can't think of anything else to say. Yeah. Thank you. Good. Thank you very much. Great. Hope that worked. Good. Good. Lovely. Yeah. Funny, isn't it? So, any questions or anything? Anything we could unmute, unstimmen or something? Yeah. Tarapati, did you need to something us? Yes. Just in case.
Do I?
Oh, lovely. Well done, that man. Yes.
Do I need to unmute people?
I think you've sort of done it. Now people can unmute themselves if they wish. Yes? Yeah?
Hello.
Yes, it works. Yes,
Hello.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Philip. I have a question to you.
Yeah, very good.
About this thing what you recommended about the boredom. And some time ago, I was very much into this kind of ideas to like push through something. But I kind of realized that to me it seems like a violent approach, that I cannot relax with it, and then I just think like, oh yeah, now I got to do this, and yeah, I will manage like 5 hours like this, and then I get closer to some spiritual goals or something. So yeah. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, just to say about myself, I haven't done it for nearly 40 years. I was a very young order member, and I did it on one of my first solitary retreats, this 5 hours, 6 hours. It could be interesting, but I wouldn't do it much. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Oh, there you are, Philip. I can see your face. But it is good just to be relaxed about, to be kind to yourself. And if you think there's profit in just being quiet and allowing yourself to be bored, it might be profitable to allow it to come up. Yeah. Does that go in the right direction?
Yes, I can relate
Yeah.
to that, because I have made good experiences with being quiet, but some time ago I really had missed the kindness to myself, and I find that is needs to be like in the first place for me.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I forgot in the talk. I saw it in the notes, but it wasn't there. About speech, the Buddha says that you are truthful in speech. You said the word kindness. You are truthful in speech. What you're going to say must be helpful. Otherwise, don't waste your time. It may be true, but it's not helpful, so don't say it. Yeah. What was the other? It must be kind. Your words should be kind. If you're going to help somebody, kindly words are so much easier to take than unkind words. And the fourth one was, the Buddha says, pick the right time. Yeah? It could be that you've got the truth, it's going to be helpful, it's the wrong time. Yes? And so it's not helpful. It's not, so there we go. So, but the kindliness, well done for saying that. Yeah? Speech should be kindly. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Maybe I'd ask something that it wasn't so much in response to the talk, but a little bit from the message that Lalitaratna had shared in the week that I'd enjoyed.
Yeah.
Reading. Yeah, he touched on something about there's this idea of speech. Speech should be useful. Speech shouldn't be sort of meaningless or meaningless chatter. But I wonder if maybe it's sort of distinction between like literal speech with the words you say and like the communication you have could kind of be helpful here. Because I sometimes find when I'm just the other night, say I was with my girlfriend and we were having a conversation that was completely at the level of words, completely useless. Like it wasn't a useful conversation whatsoever. Like it was one of the points of best communication for us in some other way. for I don't know, in the week, as I say. And I just wondered if there's something you could say on that, or.
Well, it's very. I mean, I came up this thing. You know, when I was teaching English in Germany, when it came to doing small talk, the Germans used to die. Oh no, not small talk, you know. And I mean, the British are brought up on it. You know, they talk about the weather, and it's very good. It's very nice, yeah. But I realised that small talk is like the oil between the cogs, yeah. And when it came to me once, I was on a train, and there was a fella in a wheelchair in Essen, and somebody's bicycle wheel was too near the legs of the fella in the wheelchair. So the fella in the wheelchair, he didn't say anything. He just reached over, grabbed the handlebars, and twisted it so the other one went. And the man holding the bike, standing up, was sort of twisted by this fella in the wheelchair. Not a word was said. I thought, oh God, today I miss England. I miss England. Because in England, you know, the fella in the wheelchair would have said, excuse me, mate, your bike, it's a bit near my trousers, and I've just had them pressed. It'd probably be a lie. And you go, oh, sorry, mate. No, I understand what you mean. No, it's all right. And everybody's friends afterwards, yeah? And I realised that small talk is the oil that just helps things work. All of the conversation that these two guys would have had was useless. But it was fantastic, you know. It was kindly and helpful and this, that and the other. But these two on the train, I didn't like it. Yeah. Not a word was said, and it was almost violent, yeah. So that's interesting, yeah. That the words can be rubbish and yet kindly and helpful. Yeah.
I was thinking, Max, that it sounded as if the most important part of what you said was to do with the connection, actually. And I kind of think that these precepts, I think, are quite sort of subtle, really, to really get a sense of what you do with them, what is useless or useful speech. But it sounded as if, well, you were communicating. I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Mm. You want to be communicating. Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I think I liked it in particular in the context of another thing Tarapalatha said in his message, which was about people trying to be sort of like overly meaningful or overly I don't know, maybe serious with their speech, and I can just recognise the difference between those things, and I know that the one that's maybe on a literal speech level is useless, but the communication is actually there. I know that's instinctively more helpful for people, and so yeah, it's just nice to think of those differences for me.
There's a friend of mine in Berlin. He's in the order, and for years I send him a text, and he reads the text, and he must say, "Do I really need to reply to this?" And comes up with a conclusion, "No." Yeah, and his girlfriend some years back, she got sick of this and she dumped him. Yeah, he hasn't had a girlfriend since. Yeah, but I've been trying to train him. Just send a text back. Yeah, it doesn't cost much. It doesn't cost anything. But at least the other person knows you received their text. Yeah, so you could say the text is useless speech, but it helps the world work. And I'm trying to think of an example where the Buddha says something, maybe it is useful, but when Sariputra and Moggallana, the two I mentioned, they both die. Yeah, they get old, they die. And the Buddha just muses and he just says, the assembly seems empty. I find this fantastic that the enlightened one notices. I cannot think that Moggallana is over there teaching this or Sariputra is there. The assembly seems empty. And are these words necessary? I don't know, but the Buddha says them. And but later on he says, and it's amazing, it's wonderful, I don't mind. Which is really weird, because he's the Buddha. But yeah.
I also wonder if, like, for some people, that like just from their personality or their history, they're more quiet anyway, and they're very scarce with words, and sometimes not to their own favor. Sometimes they're like, what makes them not talk, and maybe including myself, is that I'm shy, or that I feel ashamed of something, or that I've been hurt by saying something in the past. Then that makes me not say something the next time, and that I feel a bit sometimes. For me, it would sometimes be good to say some extra things. Yeah, and then for other people who talk all the time, and there's a way of thinking aloud with everybody. Maybe there's a certain, that's maybe all a comment.
There's a balance to be found. You're absolutely right. The people who talk too much maybe need to shut up a bit more, and the people who are so quiet need to say a bit more. But I remember on a retreat once, I was at the dinner table, and I'm doing all the conversation, and Ratna Bodhi opposite me, you don't know him, he's sitting opposite, silent throughout the whole meal. And at the end of the meal, everybody left, it was just the two of us. I said, Ratna Bodhi, I just admire the way you can just be so contained, and I'm like a victim of all this bloody chat and everything. And he said, I admire you. He says, I can't do what you... And it was so funny. The two of us admiring each other for the totally opposite. I was a bit out of control, and he couldn't do it, and I just like that. So yeah, it's all work. It's all discipline. It's all awareness. Yeah. And the other thing is, my God, I've made my mistakes in the past. You know, I talk to strangers and some people don't like it, yeah? And I've got very good at it. So, you know, I can chat to almost anybody these days, yeah? But, in the doctors yesterday, I just said to the doctor, this is such a lovely surgery. Everybody here is so nice, you know. And the doctor said, well, so are you. Look at your file. And it said, nice patient written on my file. Netter patient, yeah? And I just find that crazy, you know. But you develop your sensitivity, you make mistakes, you learn, you know. Yeah. Fantastic. A last question, it's time or not? Let's leave it there. Fantastic. So somebody will offer a link to the Dana Bowl. Oh, wait, what was that, Eva? I can't hear you.
No, I just saw that Karis raised her hand.
Oh, where is she? Where's Karis?
Hi.
Ah, hello, Karis. Nice to see you. Which country are you in?
In Berlin.
Hey, welcome back. Fantastic, yes. Good.
Also, Eva, about like shyness, I read the Dalai Lama's Cat, and just really briefly, and there's a really cool passage in the book talking about shyness, and I can't remember exactly everything that was said, but I think he said that it was like a part of the path to eradicate shyness, basically. You have to just kind of it's like responsibility in terms of the path to like dare yourself or something like that. It was written really eloquently, really nicely, but it just reminded me of this part of the book.
Yeah. And I think if I was sort of experimenting, I would choose my company well. Yes? If I was opening up, I'd do it in small stages. Yeah? And funnily enough, shyness can be so attractive. You know, you go to, maybe you go to Starbucks or something, and there's a new staff member, and they've been there for 2 days, and they're so adorable. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl or whatever. They're so shy and trying to get it right and so helpful. Then 3 months later, they're just cocky and they know everything, you know. Yeah, but when they're shy, it's quite nice. And the other thing I have seen, and here's a warning, sometimes, only sometimes, very shy people, a year or two later, they find their confidence and they become total tyrants. I've seen that a few times. It's really bizarre. I haven't got an explanation for it, yeah? Actually, it's in Dickens, isn't it? Uriah Heep, so humble, so humble. By the end of the book, he's controlling everything. Yeah. So there it is in literature, but I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, so my question was about what you were talking about in terms of like writing down what you want to say and like interacting with people, and I was just wondering what kind of what method would be best to use with a one-on-one conversation.
Right. Yeah, you shouldn't need to write down in a one-to-one, you shouldn't really. But it's very good to let people finish their sentences, you know. Maybe I've just not done that with you, I'm not sure, I'm so sorry, yeah. But, but it is, yeah.
There's like a grey area then maybe with one-on-one conversations where maybe it always turns back around or something, but I know for sure I've stopped myself or seen myself interrupt people a lot, and I worry that it either bothers them because it takes off track or something, and you know, but then it's also sometimes you know what to say.
And I've got this very high-speed sentence. I go, I'm interrupting, is that all right? Sorry, is that okay? And I shove that into a conversation. And I wait for the go-ahead, yeah?
I think I was going
Yeah.
to say it's the same thing. Like I find when on a one-to-one, it's quite difficult sometimes to communicate. It takes me a while to process what's going on, what they said. But I think, I guess if you're friends with them, you can. I tend to go home and write things down and even craft a little letter if I don't send it. And try and get back to them with a bit more coherent kind of. Have them in mind as well, especially if I'm a bit reactive. Slow it down a bit sometimes.
Oh, and one other thing I'd say, when we mess it up, we make a mess of it, and we get back to our room and we're embarrassed. That's fantastic. I call them the autopsies. That's when you learn, yeah? And people say, Lalitaratna, you really got it right then. How did you get it? How did you say it so well? Because the last 9 times I screwed it up. Yeah? And I go through the autopsy, I go through it and I learn. And that's okay. It's really okay to get it wrong and to even feel rotten about it. It's all growing, yeah? Yeah. Funnily enough, sorry, go on, Caris.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was anything, because I think I can think of like some quotes maybe from the Bible, maybe that Jesus was talking about speaking to people and like communication this way. And I was wondering if the Buddha had any things in terms of like communication.
Well, I missed the last word there, sorry. The Buddha had any
like quotes or pointers on communication specifically that was also part of the practice.
Yeah. Well, really, I did find a text when a monk has to criticize another monk. The Buddha gives the first monk a list of 5 checks to do on himself first, yeah? To check that he's pure of heart, that he does want the other to be well, blah, 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 yeah? You've got to check you're really pure. And then he goes through the list I gave you. Is it helpful? Is it truthful? Is it kindly? Is it the right time? And that's very good. Yeah. Yeah. And the text I got lost in, which I love so much, is Prince Abhaya. These philosophers have sent Prince Abhaya along to the Buddha with a trick question. They said, this will make the Buddha look like an idiot. Yeah? And they're saying, does the Buddha cause suffering? Does the Buddha speak the truth? Because it contradicts. Yeah? And the Buddha just says to Abhaya, he said, it's a complicated answer. And Abhaya says, the philosophers have been found out. The Buddha goes, oh, what do you mean by that? And then he says, you have a son, yes? What if your son swallowed a stick and it was caught in his throat? Would you pull it out even if it caused bleeding? Yeah? He goes, indeed I would, Lord. He said, and so would I, And sometimes you do have to hurt people, yeah? Occasionally. In spite of it, you know, just won't be the right time. Yeah, and you do hear it occasionally where some. Sorry, we're going on a bit long, but you know, the showman, the actor manager, he says to the Buddha, "Is it true we're going to heaven? We actor managers?" And the Buddha says, "Do not ask that question." And he asks a second time and a third time, and he says, "No, you go to hell." Yeah. And the fella bursts into tears. He says, "You've created false passions in people, false hopes, distracted their lives, you know." Yeah. Yeah, it's called EastEnders, you know, soap opera, crap, yeah. And there we go. But the Buddha does occasionally hurt. But if you ask 3 times, you get the answer. That was the Buddha's rule, yeah. Maybe that's enough, good people. It's 10 past, yes?
Thank you very much, Lalitaratna.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And there was a lovely meditation earlier. Thank you. Great. Fantastic. Okay, take care.
Cheers, both.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye. 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 Lovely stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you all.
Yeah, and you. Bye-bye. Cheersy. There we go.